Hi there, and welcome back to the Smart English Coach podcast. With me is Martin Johnston from the Rock and Roll English podcast. Martin is a unique voice in English podcasting because you can learn English through real life conversations and stories on his podcast. And Martin is also taking part in the English Fluency Summit, where he's going to talk about listening and pronunciation for your English fluency. Welcome, Martin. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you, Claire. I'm very honored to be here. And thank you for that wonderful intro. I'm very honored.
Well, thank you so much because I think your talk is going to be so helpful for people. So, when we talk about listening and pronunciation, where do you start?
So, where do you start is actually quite a difficult question because there is a process to it. But the ultimate goal is to understand how words change, because everyone knows English is not a phonetic language. You've got so many words where you think about how should I say that. Even like myself as a native speaker, and being born in the UK, I still see words maybe that I don't know, and I try to pronounce it, and I get it wrong because the rules, well, there are no rules, are there? So to understand how and when these words change, so that's the ultimate goal, I would say. But to do that, you need to break it down a lot. And actually, the first thing that you need to do is get your mouth, ears, even body familiar with the 44 sounds of English, because most people don't spend time actually learning them. Most people just start like reading and writing and trying to speak. They don't actually take time to learn those sounds, but every language has its own sounds. And with English, especially where the words change so much and it has so many different vowel sounds, actually breaking it down so then you can recognize these sounds, because studies have been shown that if you can't actually produce the sound, you're actually going to have a lot of difficulty recognizing that. So to actually spend time becoming familiar with those sounds so they become like part of even your mouth. It's just such a foreign thing for your mouth. Your mouth doesn't want to make new sounds. So actually taking the time to actually do that, breaking it down, is the first thing that I would do. So that's where I would start.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I love the fact that you say that when you can actually say the sound, you can then understand it. So kind of pronunciation is the first thing to better listening, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, most people don't do this at all. And if you think about it, so languages, until let's say 200 years ago, probably most people couldn't read or write. Everything was just done through listening and speaking, because listening is the primal instinct that we have as humans. But in the last, I don't know, 150 years ish, everyone started reading and writing, and that's especially for English creates a lot of problems, because your brain is looking for how you think that word should be said, but that's not how the word should be said. In fact, I often say that in speaking, words don't exist. There are just sounds. Like words exist in the written language, but when you move that to the spoken language, number one, the words themselves will be pronounced differently. And number two, when the words are put together, they're going to sound very, very different.
Absolutely, especially in fast spoken English, where all the words tend to run into each other, and it makes it really, really hard to understand even the general idea of a conversation.
Yep, exactly. So one of the other things I often say as well, which again, I want to say I didn't invent this analogy, is my greenhouse garden jungle analogy, where in the greenhouse, so think of a greenhouse where you've got plants that are nice. You've got a plant here and a plant here, clearly separated. Now the greenhouse version would be, for example, my name is Martin, or do you like it? That's how, if you went on an online dictionary and you clicked, how do I say this word? It would say in that beautiful, like greenhouse way, like the plant is there looking fantastic. But no one obviously talks like that. Otherwise you sound like a robot. Then you have the garden where the plants, the words are now touching each other. But in a garden, it's nice and orderly. It's like, it's everything is still nice. Like, and that is how most English teachers speak, how I speak as an English teacher. And this is not a bad thing, because you want to be clear. It's how people speak, like Barack Obama when he does a speech, or on the BBC. You want to be clear. You don't want to be talking like this and no one can understand what you're saying. You want to be clear. You want to talk fluidly, but in a clear way. That would be garden English. But then you have the jungle where the plants are now it's just a total mess. And if you put that into words, it's like where you don't know where one word ends and another word like finishes. It's just a total mess, because it's just a stream of sounds. It's no, because what people are looking for is that greenhouse, like each word, but that's not the case. It's just a stream of sounds, how like things link together. So for example, using the phrase I just mentioned, so do you like it would be your greenhouse. Then do you like it would be your garden. And then do you like it would be the jungle. And most people, certainly in the UK, if you go out on the street, would probably be more towards the jungle. So for example, in that phrase I said, do you like it? So which would be, do you like it? But obviously with this kind of glottal stop at the end. So people might understand like kit. What's kit? Yeah. But it's because the other word from like has moved on to it. So do you like it? So that's
all that
one
blending going on.
Another example would be do you becomes j. So if I went up to anyone on the street and said to them, what does j mean? People are like, doesn't mean anything. It's just a sound. But then if you put that into context, then that it means do you. So understanding these things, how the words change, once you know that, you're going to be more aware of that. Another example I use is I've got a foldable bike, and I'd never seen a foldable bike until 2011, and a friend came to my house and he had a foldable bike, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I've never seen one of these bikes. I went out the next day, I saw 100. Because once your attention has been brought to that, you will start, you become much more aware of it. But until your attention is brought to that thing, it's there, and you don't
even see it. You don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
I love that analogy of greenhouse, garden, and jungle. And I love the way also that when you know these things, you will also be able to develop your fluency. And that, I imagine, is precisely what you're going to talk about in your talk, which I believe is on Friday, September the 20th. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Right. Really, really looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Martin. So once again, Martin's going to be talking about listening and pronunciation and how it can help your fluency. And you can catch his talk on Friday. Martin, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Claire. So I just want to add in one more thing, because some people may not see the link to fluency. But so for me, myself as Italian, once I reached listening fluency was once I reached spoken fluency, because I truly believe that you can't have like speaking fluency without the listening fluency. And if you think of children, first of all, they understand and then they talk. It's just a natural way that humans go. So if that's the link between it. Some people might think, oh, I'm not interested. It's got nothing to do with the way I speak. It does. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. Friday, the 20th of September.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin.